What's up everyone, my name is Jony, I'm a stylist here at Lulus, and today we're going to be talking about 10 piercings you should never get. So before I start this video, I just want to let everyone know that you might have one of these piercings and this video might offend you. Don't get offended, guys. It's just a personal recommendation. You might have some of these piercings and you could be taking really good care of it and it could be doing perfectly fine for you. But for the majority of people that ask me this question, these are some of the piercings from my experience I've noticed that don't particularly heal well. People have more complications with them. It's just something I personally don't recommend. But you can still get it, it doesn't matter. Any of these piercings I named, they're not in any particular order. I just, off the top of my head, I just decided off 10 and these are the 10. First piercing I personally don't recommend, and I think majority of piercers also don't recommend, is snake eyes. If you guys don't know what that is, it's the piercing that goes across your tongue at the tip. Reason I don't recommend this is because it's at the tip of your tongue, and every time you're talking, like I'm doing right now, the tip of your tongue is constantly clicking and clacking and banging against your front two teeth. And over time, that is gonna damage your teeth. I don't care what anyone says, it will damage your teeth in the long run because you're constantly clacking and clicking. Also, accidents do happen too, guys. You could accidentally bite your tongue and accidentally bite that shit off, accidentally bite the ball and like break a tooth. So just be mindful that there's one of the piercings that most piercers do not like to do and they don't recommend. I'm not the only one. Number 9 is finger piercings. I'm notorious for doing a couple of these myself, but I personally do not like to do them. And it's mainly because they don't really heal right, guys. And I personally have done it with a dermal. A lot of the shittier ones I've seen, they put like a banana shape or curved barbell through this part of the finger. That's probably the worst way to do it if you are gonna do it because it's gonna reject very easily. Versus the dermal can still reject, it's just meant to hold on a little bit better. So the reason I don't like to do this is because you're washing your hands every day, you're putting your hands in your pocket. I don't know, you could be a UFC fighter, whatever the reason is, you're using your hands constantly and you could always be banging up against this piece of jewelry. And this piercing could constantly get in trouble and get snagged on and just become very problematic for you. And in the long run, it will reject. So I personally don't like finger piercings or anything of that sort because it's just a problematic thing to deal with. Piercing number 8 is back dermals. Yes, that is a piercing that people actually do. If you don't know, there's 2 dimples in the back. I don't know if some of you have it, some of you don't. I personally do. So people that actually decide to put piercings there and it's in the form of a dermal, these are not that great, guys, because your pants are right there. You sleep on it. When you sit in your car, your back is kind of against, your lower back touches everything. So it's like, it can be caught on things so easily. It's just something you don't want to deal with. It's like, imagine constantly having something rip against the back of your pants. Like it's just not a comfortable feeling. I don't like to do them. I have done them. I do always recommend to people to not do it, but they're very adamant about it. And so I do make all the precautions and I kind of leave it up to them to deal with it. So yeah, back dermals, no go. Number 7 is AntiTragus with the curved barbell. So the reason I don't like this is because this part of the face right here, whenever you do this piercing, you're supposed to do it with a squared shaped or rounded on the edge shaped type of jewelry. It's very specific for this kind of pierce. They call it a surface bar. That's the only kind of jewelry that should be used for this kind of area to get this piercing, but a lot of times people just do a ghetto and just put a curved barbell in there, and a lot of times it just rejects, or it's hanging on by a thin thread. I've seen it so many times where it looks so ugly. It looks like it's about to hang on by a thin piece of thread, and that's because you did it with the wrong kind of jewelry. If you're gonna get this piercing, it should most likely be done with a surface bar because that's kind of what holds. Curved barbell, AntiTragus, bad move. Number 6 is genitals. Yes, I said it, genitals. Women parts and male parts are the worst in my opinion. Only because it's such a sensitive area in your body. It's like, why would you want to pierce that? Not even the piercing pain itself, but just the fact that you're having to deal with something in such a sensitive area that is used all the time, especially when you go to the bathroom. I feel like it's something that's very problematic. Obviously, people do have this piercing, and I'm sure they're gonna comment and be like, yeah, mine's fine. But for the most part, I just see this as being a very problematic piercing. I've even had to change this many years ago. One of the horrific smelling piercings I've ever had to experience. So for the most part, I've noticed people don't do a really good job when they have this piercing. So it's, you know, it's just in a very sensitive area. So I just personally don't recommend any kind of genital piercings. It's just not my cup of tea. Number 5 is smiley. If you guys don't know where smiley piercings is, it's right here. It's that skin right there. A lot of times people don't even have enough skin to do this piercing. And the piercer's like, all right, give me your $50 and I'll do it. Like they don't even give a shit. They'll just put anything in there. So you have a very thin piece of skin right there, and they decide to pierce through it. And over time, the jewelry is gonna be slowly being pulled down until it starts rubbing against your teeth. When your jewelry starts rubbing against your teeth, it's gonna start wearing away at your enamel and eventually get into your dentin, and possibly your front teeth are gonna be very problematic, and you might even need to go with crowns. I've been in the dental field for about 6 years. I almost went to dental school. I'm very familiar with oral health when it comes to oral piercings. A lot of you guys might say, yeah, I have a smiley piercing for many years and it's totally fine. Good for you. I don't like them. I just think they're problematic. Yeah, that's my thoughts. Number 4 is dermals. I like to do these because they look good, don't get me wrong. The only thing is, I don't think people realize what they're getting into whenever they get a dermal, because it's an implant under your skin that gets binded on by your skin. Because a lot of the dermal plates, it looks like a little skateboard, and there's usually like 2 holes in them somewhere, maybe 3, depending on the design. And your skin or its blood grows through that and kind of binds together to that piece of metal. And in order to remove this, if you no longer want it, you have to like surgically remove it, guys. So I think a lot of times, if you're gonna get this piercing, you have to be ready for the consequences that come with it if you don't want it anymore. And you're literally gonna be shoveling that thing out of your face or wherever it's located. And a lot of times it's very painful. So guys, think very hard before getting a dermal, because if you don't like it, the rejection part of it or the removing part of it is a big pain in the butt. That's why I personally don't recommend it. I do like to do them because they look good, but it's that like give and take. It's like that double-edged sword. It looks good, but it's a pain in the ass to deal with, and it's a pain in the ass to take out. So yeah, just do what you want with that information. Number 3, the one that everyone's gonna hate me for, the tongue piercing. I personally don't like it. Like I said before, I was in the dental field for many years. It's just when you have a piece of metal, even if it has plastic balls, everyone's gonna be like, I have plastic balls in my mouth. Good for you. It still could rub against your teeth, and over time, can damage your teeth. Anyone that says it's not is crazy. I mean, every dentist I've ever spoke to, that I've ever studied with, lectured with, whatever it is, they've all said the same thing. Any kind of an item that's in your mouth that doesn't belong there will eventually wear down on your gums and your tooth. It's just inevitable. And you're gonna say like, oh, I've had mine for 20 years and nothing's fine. Good for you. For the most part, or people that are thinking about it, I just don't recommend it because it's a foreign object in your mouth that can cause wear and tear on your oral health. And I personally don't like it. But if you have it, good for you. Just take good care of it, and good for you. Number 2 is a very uncommon piercing. I've probably seen Google images twice. It's an eyelid piercing. For those of you guys who don't know what an eyelid piercing is, here's a photo. There's one of it literally through the eye and like through the skin. Disgusting. I don't know why the hell would you even think about that. It's just very obvious. Don't pierce your freaking eye, man. It's just, why would you do that? Another person that has an eyelid piercing, but it was probably an eyebrow piercing, but it kind of drooped down, is Joe Exotic from the hit TV show, Tiger King. He probably had an eyebrow piercing, but I don't know what happened, and it just slowly started dragging down, and now it's living on the bottom of his eyebrow where the eyelid is located. I don't think that was his initial intention, but that's where it's at now, and I'm not a big fan of it. Just take that thing out, guy. Take it out. Last but not least, and this is not in any particular order, guys, it's just something I thought of, is a horizontal lip piercing. Cardi B is very famous for doing this, and I am also famous for doing this. Not on myself, on a client. This person actually came in, I would say maybe 3 years ago, and this is when Cardi B first got it, and he was like, I want that. And I'm like, I'm not a big fan of doing it because the higher chance of rejection and swelling and whatnot, and he's like, I still want it. I'm like, okay, well, here's all the risks and whatnot, and he's like, I still want it. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do it, but if anything happens, please come to me so I can at least figure out how to fix this and like whatnot. But if it's rejecting, I can't really help you. It's just gonna fall off. It's like a car slowly being pushed off the edge of the cliff of the mountain. It's just gonna eventually just tip over and crash and burn. You know, like one of those accidents, just one of those things. Luckily for this gentleman, nothing happened ever. So I'm very surprised, but for most people that do attempt this, it does reject because it's not meant to be pierced that way. A lot of times when you get lip piercings, like a vertical lip ray, the curved bubble for some reason sits very nicely on the lip area and takes very well. But because of the shape of your lip and then the shape of the jewelry that you're using for the vertical lip ray, it tends to reject forward. So that's why I don't like it. I don't recommend it. It looks good. All these piercings on this list all look good, guys, but they just don't last long, or they're problematic, or they're just a hazard to your health. So for those reasons, these are the top 10 piercings I personally don't recommend, but have done a couple of them in the past. So shoot me now because I am just as guilty. Yeah, now I just don't recommend them. If you haven't already done so, click the video right over here to watch 5 risky aftercare mistakes that you're making while taking care of your piercings.